Can science and faith coexist? Dr. John Stevens, a renowned mathematician, never thought so. His world was one of logic, equations, and undeniable facts. To him, religion was a relic of the past, something incapable of standing up to the rigors of scientific inquiry. For years, Dr. Stevens built his career on skepticism. His belief in mathematics was unwavering, and it was the only lens through which he viewed the universe. But even with all his achievements, a nagging question remained: what is the true purpose behind it all? It started as nothing more than a fleeting curiosity. Dr. Stevens, always searching for deeper understanding, had heard rumors of miraculous discoveries in ancient texts, particularly the Quran. But even the thought of analyzing it scientifically seemed absurd. A mathematician by profession, he had always held a skeptical view of anything outside the realm of logic and proof. Yet something about the idea intrigued him, a new challenge to his rigid worldview. What if there was more to these ancient scriptures than he had ever imagined? But what he read next would forever change the course of his life. As his eyes scanned the page, he stumbled upon claims that the Quran contained hidden mathematical patterns far beyond the grasp of ancient minds. His heart raced. Could this be real? Could an ancient text, thought by many to be a book of faith, hold secrets of science he had yet to uncover? Suddenly, the logical skeptic was forced to ask himself, what if he had been wrong all along? Dr. Stevens had always prided himself on his analytical mind. For years, he had been taught that science was the only true path to understanding the universe. Raised in an environment where logic reigned supreme, he had seen firsthand the power of mathematics to explain everything from the mysteries of the cosmos to the most intricate phenomena on Earth. It was the only lens through which he could view reality. The Quran, on the other hand, was nothing more than a collection of ancient beliefs, an archaic relic of humanity's past. Science had always been his fortress, a place where there was no room for doubt. Religion and faith were for others, those who couldn't grasp the complexity of the universe. To Dr. Stevens, faith had no place in the world of facts, but curiosity, like a silent whisper, had begun to pull him in a direction he hadn't expected. It was late one night when Dr. Stevens first encountered something that he couldn't ignore. He had dismissed the Quran's claims as mere superstition, yet the more he read, the more intrigued he became. Using his AI algorithms, he began analyzing the text, expecting to find nothing more than vague references to the natural world. But then, something caught his attention, something that stopped him dead in his tracks. He could hardly believe his eyes. The number 19, this number, so fundamental in mathematics, appeared repeatedly, embedded in the verses, as if it were part of a hidden code. Every 19th verse contained a structure he couldn't explain, a mathematical relationship too precise to be coincidence. This wasn't just an anomaly, it was a pattern, a mathematical truth that had been hidden in plain sight. Could it be possible? Could a book, written centuries ago, really contain such knowledge? Could not shake the feeling that what he was uncovering was more than mere coincidence. As he dove deeper into the Quran's verses, each one seemed to reveal more than just spiritual teachings. They offered a glimpse into a deeper understanding of the universe. He found himself drawn to Quran 41:53, a verse that seemed to describe the universe in terms he had only recently encountered in modern astrophysics. We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth, the verse stated. As a scientist, he had studied the expanding universe extensively, but never had he encountered such a direct reference to it in any ancient text. It was as though the Quran had predicted the very truths modern science had only uncovered in recent decades. How could this be? The Quran had described the universe's expansion long before telescopes could even confirm it. This discovery was no longer a matter of coincidence, it was a revelation. As Dr. Stevens continued his research, a battle began to rage within him. He had spent his entire career grounded in science, in mathematics, in formulas that always had a solution. But the patterns he was now uncovering in the Quran didn't fit neatly into any equation. Every verse he analyzed seemed to align perfectly with modern scientific principles. But there was one thing he could not ignore, his long-standing belief that faith and science could not coexist. Could it be that an ancient text written centuries ago contained knowledge that only now, with the help of advanced scientific tools, was being understood? His mind raced with the implications, but the skeptic in him fought back. How could he reconcile these discoveries with everything he had known? The Quran spoke of miracles, but could those miracles be explained by science? The more he dug, the more certain he became that this wasn't just coincidence, but he was afraid of what it meant. Could the truth he was uncovering change everything he had ever believed in? Was it possible that the answers to the universe weren't simply found in equations but in something far more profound? And Dr. Stevens could not escape the pull of the Quran. What had started as an intellectual exercise had become something far more profound. His initial skepticism was now a distant memory, replaced by a growing curiosity that stretched beyond mathematics. The verses that had once seemed like a mere historical account now resonated with him in ways he could not fully explain. He began to realize that the rigid barrier he had once built between faith and science had been a construct, one he'd created to shield himself from the unknown. But now, as he stood at the crossroads of understanding, he could see how the two worlds were not separate. They were deeply connected. For the first time in his life, Dr. Stevens understood that science wasn't the only way to explore the mysteries of the universe. Faith, too, had its place in the search for truth. One evening, as Dr. Stevens sat with the Quran open before him, something profound happened. He was reading through verses describing human development in the womb when the connection hit him like a thunderbolt. The Quran was describing stages of embryology with startling precision, stages that had only been discovered in the last century. How could this be? The Quran had described human development with an accuracy that only modern science could confirm. Could a book written over 1,400 years ago really contain this kind of knowledge? Dr. Stevens felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the implications of what he was reading. Could this be divine knowledge? This was no longer just a mathematical puzzle to solve. It was a moment of clarity, a moment that could change everything. The skeptic had become the seeker, and Dr. Stevens knew that this revelation was just the beginning. After weeks of wrestling with these discoveries, Dr. Stevens reached a moment of clarity. The questions that had haunted him about the universe, the meaning of life, and his own purpose were not just found in equations and formulas. They were found in something far deeper. For the first time in his life, Dr. Stevens understood that true knowledge didn't just reside in science, it also lived in faith. In that instant, everything changed. The skeptic, the mathematician who had built his life around logic, now faced a new path, a path of faith. He had found the answer he had been searching for, not through formulas, but through something far more profound: belief. The skeptic had become a believer, and in that moment, Dr. Stevens felt an overwhelming peace, one that he had never known before. Dr. Stevens' transformation didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't easy, but the moment he embraced his new faith, everything within him seemed to fall into place. The logic-driven man he once was now in harmony with the spiritual being he had become. Standing in front of a room full of people, Dr. Stevens shared his discoveries, how science and faith weren't opposing forces, but two sides of the same coin. He explained the mathematical patterns he had found in the Quran and how they aligned with modern science. The audience listened, some nodding in understanding, others deep in thought. His own journey from skepticism to belief had revealed something extraordinary. The search for truth, whether through science or faith, could lead to the most unexpected and beautiful revelations. Dr. Stevens' life had found a new direction. No longer consumed by the quest for scientific proof alone, he now saw the universe through a different lens, one that embraced both the logic of science and the depth of faith. He had discovered that the truths he had been seeking were not just written in equations, but were embedded in the very fabric of existence. His journey from skepticism to belief had not only changed his own life, but had inspired others to explore the intersection of faith and science. People from all walks of life, particularly scientists who had once dismissed religion, were now listening, questioning, and learning alongside him. Stevens had become more than just a scientist, he had become a bridge between two worlds, showing that science and faith could not only coexist, but could enrich each other in ways he had never imagined.